America in 1973, I was very fortunate to live for a few months at the house of my mentor, the wonderful folklorist, Kenneth S. Goldstein. We all called him Kenny Goldstein, who was chair of the folklore department at the University of Pennsylvania. And I came to America to study folklore. I was after the big bucks, obviously. And living in his house was a folklorist's dream come true, really. He had one of the most extraordinary libraries of Americana, popular culture, mostly folklore, and songs of all kinds. And I spent countless hours in the basement of his house on Vernon Avenue in northwest Philadelphia. And I came across an inordinate number of songs about the Irish in the American Civil War. Now, I was new to America at the time and was a little puzzled by this. My knowledge of American history was a lot more limited then than it became later. But I became friends with the great late historian Dennis Clarke. Became one of my best friends. And Dennis was a powerhouse of a man. He grew up in a working class neighborhood in Kensington in Philadelphia, and eventually went to Temple, got a PhD in history, and wrote The Irish in Philadelphia as his doctoral thesis, which still stands as a fantastic book to this day. Not too many people were writing much about the Irish in America at that time. Dennis ended up writing 11 books on the Irish experience in America, held down a full-time job at the time and raised a family of 6 and moved house every 4 years. And he actually was the man you would turn to if you needed something done or a helping hand. Dennis, he often says, the busiest person who has the most time. And Dennis, I was very, very sad when he finally passed away, leaving a wonderful legacy behind him. But he acquainted me with the history of the Irish at the time that the Civil War happened. And we were very unwelcome visitors in America, as many of you know, at that time. But along came the Civil War, and then the Irish immigrants, they enlisted in huge numbers on the Union Army. And through their fighting and their sacrifice for the new republic, their new home, they proved that they were Americans as well as Irish. Now, there were, of course, Irish who fought on the Confederacy side as well. Mostly the people known as the Scotch-Irish who had come in earlier migrations. That was understandable that their allegiance would have been where they lived. But the most enduring legacy in song is of the Irish who fought in the Union Army. This is a song that I learned from a man called Tom Dahill in Minneapolis, St. Paul, about 30 years ago. And it's one of my favourite songs. It's very much an anti-war anthem, Pat Murphy of the Irish Brigade. Now, the Irish Brigade, there were two stories really leading to the Irish Brigade. One was the Fighting 69th, led by General Corcoran, a very, very feisty, controversial man who refused to parade the regiment for the Prince of Wales and was subsequently court-martialed, but very little came of it because the Civil War broke out. And then the 69th, which fought with great valour, was basically destroyed at the Battle of Bull Run, and the remnants of it, with new recruits, was formed into a unit called the Irish Brigade, commanded by Thomas Francis Maher, a very colourful and interesting character. Now, Maher was born of a well-to-do family in what's now the Granville Hotel in Waterford City. I've stayed there many times and visited the room on the second floor where he was actually born. It was, before that, it was the stopping off point for the stagecoach, the Bianconi stagecoach. And he and his family, they made money on the cod fishery trade, outfitting the ships and the personnel who went back and forth to Newfoundland and the cod fisheries back at that time. He was a participant he was a fervent nationalist, and a participant in the 1848 rebellion, which was really a fiasco. Ireland was going through a famine at the time, and the ringleaders were rounded up, and two of them, Thomas Francis Maher and his compatriot John Mitchell, were sentenced to death, but eventually was commuted, mostly through their rich friends in America, to a life sentence in penal servitude in Tasmania. And they were shipped out there. But they both escaped. They gave their word as gentlemen that they would report to the police station and tell them, we're escaping. And the police were totally astonished. What in the name of God is going on here? But off they went. And Maher arrived to a great welcome in New York. Became a lawyer on Fifth Avenue, and eventually in the Civil War became the hero, the general of the Irish Brigade. Was rewarded for his service by being given the governorship, the first governorship of the state of Montana. But on the way to take up office there, he was assassinated. His body has never been found. It's one of the great mysteries of that time. His compatriot, John Mitchell, went in an entirely other direction. He went to Knoxville, Tennessee, and became a fervent Confederate supporter, believed in slavery and the institution of slavery. And he had 3 sons. 2 of them were killed in the Civil War, the other was wounded. Eventually became involved with the Fenian organisation and went back to Ireland. And he's known as an Irish nationalist hero. His reputation in America is much more complex. Anyway, going to sing Pat Murphy of the Irish Brigade, joined by the wonderful Hayley Richardson in North Carolina, and by Brenda Castles, County Meath concertina player and singer now living in Dublin. Pat Murphy of the Irish Brigade. The night before battle, and all through the camp, the soldiers lay close in their quarters. They were thinking, no doubt, of their loved ones at home, mothers, wives, children and daughters. Far away in the east sat a dashing young blade, and a song he was singing so gaily. It was honest Pat Murphy of the Irish Brigade, and he sang of the spring of Shillelagh. One thou says, Pat, what a pity to see brothers fighting in such a strange manner. But I'll fight till I die, and I'll surely be killed for America's bright starry banner. If 'twas only John Bull who was here to the fore, I would rush into battle so gaily, and I'd leather away with the heart and a half, with the elegant sprig of Shillelagh. The morning then came, and Pat he arose on the rebels to have satisfaction. The drummer was baiting the devil's tattoo, calling the boys into action. And the Irish Brigade in the battle were seen, their blood for the cause shedding freely, as with bayonet charges they marched on the pole, with a shout for the land of Shillelagh. Was over, the dead lay in heaps, Pat Murphy lay bleeding and gory. The hole in his head from a rifleman's shot had ended his passion for glory. No more in the camp will his laughter be heard, or his voice singing ditties so gaily. Like a hero he died for the land of the free, far away from the land of Shillelagh. Will never forget where valour and fame hold communion, how boldly those brave Irish volunteers fought in defence of the flag of the Union. And if ever old Ireland assistance does need, her call we heed quite gaily, and the stars and the stripes would be seen alongside of the flag of the land of Shillelagh. Far away in the east sat a dashing young blade, and the song he was singing so gaily, it was honest Pat Murphy of Maher's Brigade, and he sang of the spring of Shillelagh.